Welcome back to another episode of Coding Wizards. Today, in this episode, we will be looking at loops in Java. So I already have my class set up and my main method set up for this video. So what loops do in Java is you can use them to iterate code a number of multiple times based on certain conditions or just a set amount of time, so you can accomplish code that would usually like code that you would have to write multiple times. You can accomplish that code in just a little bit of code using a loop. So let's start off. So we can, so first we're going to look at the while loop. So to make a while loop, just type while, some parentheses, and then curly brackets, and then, so this is a while loop. What this means is while this condition is equal to true, execute this code, and then check if this condition is still equal to true, then execute this code. And when this condition is not true, after it's executed its code, it will exit the loop and keep going. So for example, if we go int I equals 0, and I is less than 10, and then we can go I++, and system.out.println I, just so that we can see what's happening. This should run 10 times because I will start with 0, and then it will go in, and then it will here, I'll just move this so it makes it a little more sense. And it also, we just moved the I++ because in for loops, which we'll learn later in this video, the change to the number you're sending through is after, so this just makes it a little more uniform. So I equals 0 when I is less than 10. Run this code, system.printout I and I++. So I is 0, I is less than 10, 0 is less than 10. Print out 0, I, and then I++, so I is now 1, 1 is less than 10, go in, print out 1, and keep going until this makes I 10, then we go back out. 10 is not less than 10, so this does not run, and we go down here. So if we start this program, it should run 10 times, and should run 0 to 9. There we go. So that's pretty cool. While loops are mainly very useful for if you're not exactly sure when a condition will end, or when a condition will stop happening. While loops are very good, because you can just keep running them with not much knowledge of how they're going to play out in the end. So while loops are a pretty useful tool, which you can use. Another type of loop is the for loop. So what you want to do is type for, and then bracket, and then you want to write your variable, int I equals 0. As you saw in the other one, the variable is outside and totally independent of the loop, but in this one we have the variable inside the loop for loops. And then we write our case, so if I is less than 10, and then I++. So this is how it changes. So we all write this in this top line, separated by semicolons, and then inside the loop we can write the code. We can write system.out.println I, because we can use I from up there. So if we run this, it should run the same result. Yep, there we go. Because it's doing the exact same thing except a different format. For loops I like to use more often when you know a set number of outcomes or a number of times, or you know that a number is going to not be in too many times, more when you have a set amount. It's also really good for going through arrays, because what you can do is you can go like when I is less than, and then like array dot length, and it will scroll through the entire array. So those are very useful for that. And also you can nest them, which we'll learn about soon, for 2D arrays. One thing you want to be careful of is if you make a mistake. For example, if I said when I is less than, same code, but I is now equal to 100 run at the beginning, we go in and actually right now we're going to go when I is greater than 10, and I is 101, and I is greater than 10. So this will run the code, but it will go I++. But I will never be less than 10, which means that this will go on forever. And depending on what you're using, it might crash it. I'm just using Voxer here, so it gives us the message long output, which means that it didn't really work. So you want to avoid making infinite loops because it can crash your computer, which is not good. Now we'll move on to nested loops, which are always fun. So let's just make another for loop, and this time we're going to use a different integer j. Doesn't really matter what you use. J is less than 10. J++. So what this does is every time you run this loop, you run the code inside. Now every time you run this code, you have to run it 10 times because j is 0, and then it keeps going up till it hits 10, and then it goes back out, so you get back to the original loop, and then this loop exit comes back and realizes that it has to run again. So it runs this again, which resets this variable to 0, and keeps going. So what we can do is we can go system.out.println. I'll just do j, and if we run this, this should run the inner loop should run 100 times. Oh, we have a problem here. System.out.println. Let's see. Okay, here. I just put the bracket wrong there. Now if we run this, as you can see, we get a bunch of results. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No, not 10, but there are 10 results there. And this runs 10 times because we know the I loop runs 10 times, which means there are actually 100 results. And the main thing to note is you don't just have to print out your variable. You can also use your variable as like a counter, as I've mentioned before, in an array, which are really nice, or you can use them for many other things. Nested loop for loops are mainly used for 2D arrays. Well, not mainly used, but that's really good use of them. Because again, with this, you can just go like array, and then I.length, which will give you the actual length of the x value, or the j value of the array, the row value, like how many things are on the row, and then you can print out each of the things in the row. Just to give a demonstration of that, we don't actually have to have an array, but what we can do is we can print j, and we can print, it'd be I, and then j. So if we print this, let's start now, it should go from 0, 0 to 9, 9. Here we go. So we start at 0, 0, and then it goes 0, 1, because j is counting up, but I is still 0. Then we go to I1, and j counts again at 0, and we keep going up until we get to 9, 9, which is actually 100 results because the first one was 0, 0. So that's pretty cool. There are tons of things you can do with arrays in Java, and they're really neat tool to use because they can cut down your code quite substantially, especially when you have lots of large code and you really need to you don't want it to be too big, or it might slow down your computer because there's too much code to run, and it also just makes your program a lot neater and easier to edit. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!